What and why? Those are perhaps the two simple questions we should want answered as we hear this very familiar gospel passage, St. Matthew's account of the miraculous feeding of the multitude. Of course, in order to appreciate the answers to those questions and why they're important, we first need to be reminded that this miracle is the only miracle that is consistently reported across all four Gospels. So that tells us that the evangelists, as they were trying to sort out what accounts would be best to reveal the truth about Jesus, they all considered this amazing miracle to be essential to our understanding of him and the insight it provides us into his saving mission. So before examining what exactly Jesus did in order to accomplish this amazing feat of feeding so many with so little, let us recall why he did it. And that is simple. Unlike his often nervous and sometimes bumbling disciples, who thought it best to just dismiss the crowd so that they could fend for themselves, we are told that Jesus had compassion. He had compassion for them. He looked out and he saw people who had gathered to see him, who were already weary and also hungry, having traveled on foot from the areas around the Sea of Galilee in order to listen to him preach. They were eager to learn a new way of thinking about themselves and their relationship with God. They had been hungry, in a sense, to hear what Jesus could reveal to them. And now that the afternoon is moving into evening, their minds, hearts, and souls are satisfied with new knowledge and understanding. Yet now they were actually becoming physically hungry for food. This Jesus knew, and rather than send them away with empty stomachs to try to trek back to wherever they had come from, Jesus has pity on them and wants to meet their need for food before sending them home. Indeed, he felt responsible for their well-being and would overcome any seeming obstacle in order to provide for them. So even though it was only a few small discs of Middle Eastern bread and a couple of fish, yet in the hands of Jesus, these could be multiplied so that all could eat and have their fill. So he took what the disciples had, blessed these, broke them, and then gave them to all present. And to the amazement of everyone, all were adequately fed, and there was even an abundance of food left over. So renewed in strength, that crowd could be dismissed to travel back to their own villages throughout the region of Galilee. Thus, it is not mere coincidence that we would hear these very same verbs, take, bless, break, give, used to describe another action of Jesus in the gospel, the familiar account of the Last Supper. For while at table with his disciples to celebrate a final Passover, we are told that Jesus takes bread, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to his disciples, and thus institutes the sacrament of the Eucharist with the intention that his disciples should continue to celebrate that in remembrance of him. So we are also provided the why for what we are called to do here this very day. And it is the exact same reason as for the miraculous multiplication of the loaves and fish. It is the compassion of Jesus Christ for us as the weary and hungry crowd assembled before him. We can defensively say, oh, we aren't really tired and we're not really hungry. We ate breakfast. Maybe not literally so, but spiritually speaking, we are in need. For we still have quite far to travel in order to get home. Home to that place Jesus himself prepares for us in God's kingdom. And admittedly, we are quite unlikely to make it there if we deny our need and refuse the food Jesus offers us as strength for that journey. So let us never resent his pity for us, nor ignore his compassion, as he still desires to multiply meager provisions in all the places where 2 or 3 or more are gathered in his name. Indeed, wherever and whenever, in obedience to his command, bread is taken by those ordained to act in his name, then blessed to become his body, and broken and given to feed the multitudes. We are, in a sense, then, both in that deserted, grassy area in Tabgha along the Sea of Galilee, where tradition tells us that miracle took place, and we are also guests invited to the supper table in the upper room at Jerusalem, where the Lord who loves us is nourishing us for life, not only in this world, but especially for the one to come. So let us recognize the truth that sadly escapes so many today. The simple truth that the Eucharist is the gift of his very self and his death-defying life to us. So it is not merely important, but actually absolutely essential in the life of any who would call themselves a Christian. Indeed, not merely a nicety to be celebrated and consumed on occasion, but an absolute necessity to be revered and received as often as possible if we are to finally make it home.